London-based British citizen have been threatened with life imprisonment for your work exposing human rights failures. Extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, absolutely. They gave us 72 hours to take down our website, which, of course, we're not going to do. And they've said...
Who has given you 72 hours? Who?
So I received 2 letters within a few hours of each other, the Hong Kong Police and the Hong Kong National Security Bureau.
Right, OK. And so what will happen to you if you don't do that?
Well, in theory, they say that I could face a fine of up to £10,000 and anything between 1 year and life imprisonment.
That's if you go back to Hong Kong?
It's if I go back to Hong Kong, or, of course, if they find a way of having me extradited. So I have to be careful where I travel, I guess.
Right, so, I mean, this sort of behaviour from the Chinese authorities, it's standard fare, isn't it, in a dictatorship? Worrying trend, though, outside of the country.
Absolutely. The national security law, when it was imposed on Hong Kong, has a clause of extraterritoriality, but I never thought actually in practice they would invoke it.
So what sort of support have you had from the British authorities? Because clearly we can't be intimidated like this.
Absolutely. I've been very encouraged. I've had conversations with the Foreign Office. More importantly, Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, issued a very strong statement, and quite a number of MPs across all parties have been speaking out. So
what do you expect to happen? What do you think the next steps are likely to be? I mean, you're going to continue in your work, in your NGO's work, exposing those human rights travesties?
Oh, I'll certainly continue. I mean, I think all the more reason now to redouble our efforts. And the consequences in practice, I think, are very minimal. I just have to be careful probably when I travel to make sure I'm not going to countries that have extradition agreements. But we'll keep speaking out for Hong Kong.
What about China? I mean, I was there, like you, for the handover. What year was it, 95?
97.
97. And it was monumentous. The celebrations, the rain poured down and poured down like rain I've never seen before. But nothing lived up to the promises that were given, has it? Nothing?
That's right. I mean, I would say I lived there for the first 5 years after the handover. And for those years, and maybe the following five years, one country, two systems did remain intact, and the Chinese did keep their promises. But in the last 2 years...
Why did it change? That's what I'm saying to you.
Well, I think it's particularly under the leadership of Xi Jinping, where he has intensified repression both in China and extended it to Hong Kong. And he's torn up the international treaty that China had signed, promising to protect Hong Kong's autonomy and freedom.
So we see what Russia has done when left unchallenged. Can we do anything against China?
Yes, I think we definitely can. I mean, first of all, I think it's extraordinary that we have not imposed sanctions yet for what they've done in Hong Kong. And if they're allowed to get away with what they've done to Hong Kong with impunity, they will just be emboldened to be even more repressive at home and aggressive abroad. So we should sanction them, we should withdraw British judges from Hong Kong courts, and we should be working with allies to look at other things we can do.
It's interesting, you know, you're talking about being there at the handover, and the last colonial governor, Chris Patten, who's obviously, I think he's a member of your NGO, isn't he? He said in a statement, this is another disgraceful example of Mr. Putin's friends in Beijing and their quislings in Hong Kong trying not only to stamp out freedom of expression and information, but also to internationalise their campaign against evidence, freedom and honesty, making that link then between what's happening in Russia and China. Do you think the timing of this action is linked to what's going on in Russia?
I don't think it's necessarily directly linked, but I think Chris Patten is right to articulate the overarching theme that we are now in a struggle between freedom, democracy on the one hand, and authoritarianism on the other. And alongside Russia, China is clearly the major opponent in that battle.
Absolutely terrifying. Quite shocking, really. Yeah. There we are.
Well, continue in what you have to do, Benedict. Thank you very much indeed. Very good talking to you. Benedict Rogers is co-founder of Hong Kong Watch, conservative human rights campaigner as he is. Let's go and get a weather update now, and we'll see you top of the hour.